I get it, you're staring at the mic rack in a friend's studio, hearing that smooth, buttery tone coming from a Neumann, and you're wondering if dropping a few $100 on a brand new large diaphragm condenser is worth it for your own setup. You've probably heard the hype, seen a couple of YouTubers rave about studio-grade sound, and you're also aware that a pricey mic can sit in a box for months if it doesn't click with your workflow. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What makes the decision tricky is that a microphone isn't just a piece of hardware, it's a bridge between what you're playing or singing and what your listeners actually hear. In the past, I've tried a handful of budget condensers that sounded great on paper but fell flat when I tried to capture a quiet acoustic guitar in a modest home office. The Neumann TLM 107 lands in that gray area between high-end studio gear and real-world everyday use, so let's break down where it actually shines and where it might leave you reaching for a different tool. First off, the TLM 107 is a large diaphragm condenser with 5 selectable polar patterns: cardioid, omnidirectional, figure 8, and 2 intermediate settings. In practice, that flexibility translates into a few very concrete scenarios. If you're a solo vocalist recording in a treated vocal booth, the cardioid setting will reject most of the room's reflections and let you focus on your voice. On the other hand, if you're a podcaster who occasionally does roundtable interviews, you can flip to the omnidirectional pattern and capture everyone's voice evenly without having to reposition the mic or add a second microphone. The figure 8 option is a lifesaver when you want to record a duet or a saxophone and piano together, because it naturally balances the two sources coming from opposite sides. Those intermediate patterns give you subtle tweaks for room ambience, which is something you rarely get from the single-pattern mics that dominate the entry-level market. Now, the Highpass filter and pad are the other two knobs you'll be fiddling with. The 3-position Highpass filter, 75 Hz, 150 Hz, 200 Hz, is a practical way to tame low-frequency rumble when you're recording a bright acoustic guitar or a vocal that tends to get a little boomy in an untreated room. I've used it while recording a home studio drum kit with a cheap carpet on the floor. Just dropping the filter to 150 Hz gave me a cleaner low end without having to go back and notch out frequencies in the DAW later. The 3-position pad, 10 dB, 20 dB, 30 dB, is equally handy when you bring a loud source into the room, like a brass instrument or a high-gain electric guitar cabinet. Instead of worrying about clipping the preamp, you can engage the appropriate pad setting and still retain the mix detail. One of the biggest hidden trade-offs with a Neumann is the need for clean, low noise gain. The TLM 107 is designed for quality preamps that can supply around 4050 dB of gain without adding hiss. In a typical home studio that uses a decent audio interface or a small format mixer, you'll be fine, but if you're still on a budget interface that tops out at 30 dB, you might notice a slight increase in noise floor, especially when you pull the mic close to a quiet source. That's not a defect, it's just a reminder that the mic expects a certain level of support to deliver its full character. When it comes to daily usability, the TLM 107 feels surprisingly approachable. The nickel finish gives it a professional look that won't look out of place on a minimalist desktop, and the switch layout is intuitive. You can flip between patterns and filters without needing to read a manual every time. The mix weight is modest, so you can mount it on a standard boom arm without adding a massive counterweight. I've taken it on location to a small coffee shop for a live acoustic session. The only extra piece of gear I needed was a basic shock mount, which the mix standard 5-inch thread accepts without any adapters. That portability factor is often overlooked when people focus solely on the studio label. So, who should seriously consider the TLM 107? If you're a vocalist, singer-songwriter, or content creator who wants a single mic that can handle vocals, acoustic instruments, and occasional spoken word, the pattern flexibility alone makes it a strong candidate. It's also a solid match for small podcast setups that occasionally need to record multiple hosts in the same room. You can switch to omnidirectional for a balanced capture and then drop back to cardioid for solo episodes. For musicians who already have a decent preamp or audio interface that can deliver clean gain, the TLM 107 will elevate the nuance in your recordings, revealing subtle overtones that cheaper mics simply flatten. Conversely, if you're a beginner who is still learning how to treat room acoustics, or if you plan to record only one type of source, like just electric guitar amp tones, you might be better off allocating that budget toward a dedicated instrument mic or a more rugged dynamic mic that's less